So, hey, good news this week. Many countries have voted to recognize a Palestinian state. This from Renewable Matter. UN General Assembly, France and 9 other Western countries recognize Palestine as a state. Quote, France will recognize the Palestinian state. These were the words of President Emmanuel Macron in his speech at the conference jointly organized with Saudi Arabia during the United Nations General Assembly to assault the to support the two-state. I was thinking of his wife to support the two-state solution proposal. Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan, attending alongside the French president, described it as a historic step. Macron was met with a lengthy round of applause, while Washington looked on with annoyance at the long parade of heads of state, ministers, and diplomats who had flocked to the conference, created to accelerate the creation of a sovereign national entity for the Palestinian people. 10 Western countries formally recognized Palestine as a state on Monday. Andorra, Australia, Belgium, Canada, Great Britain, Luxembourg, Portugal, Malta, and San Marino, in addition to France. Only Germany and Italy backed out, despite Minister of Foreign Affairs Antonio Tajani reiterating in a press conference that, quote, he will sign the document that seeks a two-state solution, a document that strongly urges Israel to allow humanitarian aid and anything else that may be useful to the Palestinian people. Tajani added that Italy will continue to help the Palestinian people achieve their dream, quote, that of being protected by a state that we want to recognize and are working to build more than any other. I think that speech was written by Kamala Harris. A shot at both sides. Talk about trying to get on every side of the issue.
Yeah.
A shot at both sides to please the many right-wing voters who are not very sympathetic to Zionism, but also to avoid upsetting Trump, who, through his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, had tried everything to thwart the conference sought by the French, which instead turned out to be a great diplomatic success. Now, when you do what we do, which requires a lot of research and looking at different news sources, it's very interesting how news is often suppressed in ways that are overt and sometimes ways that are more subtle. They can't not report on this, that all of these countries are recognizing a Palestinian state. But it's very odd that most of the news reports I looked at did not show the leaders, particularly England and France. You would think, if anything, they would include that. No. So I had to put together my own supercut and go around and find these things individually. So here's my own cut of what happened at the UN.
No matter how many tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of soldiers, they cannot erase from the face of earth a nation, the Palestinian nation, nor will they be able to succeed in eradicating tens of thousands, millions of Palestinians. We are here to stay, and there is no power on earth that will negate our existence. So for those who are living in denial and drunk with their ecstasy and victories, wake up. The only road is the road to peace. The only road is the road of the two-state solution, to live next to each other and peace and security. We are committed to that. The whole world is committed to that. There is only one party, led with group of fanatic leaders who are refusing to accept that, and they are trying in a futile exercise to eradicate the existence of the Palestinian people and their national rights, including their right to self-determination, statehood, and the right of the refugees.
And let's be clear, statehood for the Palestinians is a right, not a reward.
Therefore, Belgium is giving out a strong political and diplomatic signal to the world today by joining the group of countries that announces the recognition of the State of Palestine in a margin of this high-level week of the United Nations General Assembly.
I declare that as of today, Luxembourg formally recognizes the State of Palestine.
First, the State of Palestine must be a
This
fully
is
fledged
Spain.
member of the United Nations.
Slovenia has acted.
Yeah.
We recognize Palestine together with Ireland, Norway and Spain.
I commend those who have taken the decision to recognize the State of Palestine this week, and I strongly urge those who have yet to do so to give it serious consideration.
We salute the countries that recognize Palestine, as Brazil did in 2010. We are already the vast majority of the 193 members of the UN.
Portugal formally recognized the State of Palestine as a sovereign state with full rights.
The recognition of the State of Palestine is the right step
This is Indonesia.
on the right side of history. To those who have yet to act,
Big guy.
we say
Like 8 feet tall.
history
4
does
feet
not
wide.
stand still.
The time has come.
Like Arnold Palmer, there's a whole lot of
This
man
is
in that
why.
guy.
True to the historic commitment of my country to the Middle East, to peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. This is why I declare that today France recognizes the State of Palestine.
70
Now, given the role of England directly in creating Israel, this statement was pretty remarkable from the UK. Go back just a little.
75 years ago, Britain was rightly proud to recognize the State of Israel. But the promise of upholding Palestinian rights has gone unfulfilled. For decades, my country supported a two-state solution, but only recognized one state. That changes now, as we join more than 150 member states in recognizing the State of Palestine and protecting the pathway to peace.
That is a stronger statement than I expected from the UK, kind of tacitly acknowledging their long history in that region and their part in creating this situation. Of course, eliding responsibility. Oh, we hadn't noticed for the last 75 years that the Palestinians were being abused. We just noticed, but better late than never. So here is everyone's favorite sugar baby since Heidi Fleiss going on to rebuke the Western nations for recognizing Palestine.
For all of these Western nations that are recognizing a Palestinian state, the president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer. And he feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas. So he believes these decisions are just more talk and not enough action from some of our friends and allies, and I think you'll hear him talk about that tomorrow at the UN.
Which indeed he did, among many other things, to the shock and horror of the UN. His teleprompter broke, which did not help. So imagine the most rambling Trump speech you've ever seen, and then multiply it by 3. We didn't have time to get to it, but here's one of the more mild and coherent parts of that speech.
As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th.
If I could just say really quickly, that's absolutely not true at all. As Glenn Lowry said, I remember when we were watching him arguing with John McWhorter about this. He says, if you don't want events like October 7th, the best thing you can do is enshrine Palestinians with a state. This way, there is a recognized body and an ability to actually organize and do diplomacy with the rest of the world. That's how you stop events like that. So I totally reject that it is a reward for Hamas to recognize Palestine as a state. I think it's completely the opposite.
Right. And Gutierrez made the point in what was clearly a rebuke to that angle, that this is a reward. Made a point of saying it's not a reward, it's a right. But beyond that, this whole thing is a rewriting of history. Netanyahu gave literally suitcases full of cash to Qatar to give to Hamas to avoid a two-state solution. He's presenting this as if these foul Palestinians just went and empowered a terrorist group. If you don't like Hamas, talk to Netanyahu. And to that point, Netanyahu made his own statement in which he made it very, very clear he has absolutely no intention of allowing a Palestinian state under any circumstances. I have a clear message for those leaders who recognize a Palestinian state after the horrific massacre on October 7th. You are giving a massive reward to terror. And I have another message for you. It will not happen. There will not be a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. For years, I have prevented the establishment of this terror state despite immense pressure both domestically and internationally. We did this with determination and with diplomatic wisdom. Not only that, we doubled Jewish settlement in Judea and Samaria, and we will continue on this path. The response to the latest attempt to impose a terror state in the heart of our land will be given after we return from the United States. Wait. Okay, so he's supposed to address the United Nations on Friday, and he's supposed to go back to the Oval Office with his laundry and with Miriam's 15-inch special to put Trump back in his place if he starts getting ornery, expecting to have his chairs pulled out at all times by our dear leader. So a lot of Arab countries like the UAE, like Saudi Arabia, that have been normalizing or have normalized relations with Israel are warning them not to take that step. But remember, as crazy as it seems, Netanyahu is the moderate there. You got Smotrich demanding and claiming that he's going to force a vote on just annexing the West Bank. Now, it's not that Netanyahu wouldn't like to do that, but he does try to calculate the political angles of what the consequences of that would be, unlike people like Smotrich. But if his right wing really pressures him to do that, will Israel go ahead and say the U.S. has our back anyway, which we will? This country's not going to abandon them no matter what. We've made that clear. Will they make the calculation, well, whatever, we don't need to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia? Maybe. I mean, Netanyahu is directly threatening to retaliate for this recognition, making it increasingly isolated and really a rogue state. I mean, this is a rogue state. Over 150 countries have recognized Palestine. You have the United States and Israel are really just against the rest of the world increasingly on this.
Well, that statement was just absolute nonsense. First of all, irrespective of what he said, it's a right, not a reward. I think you disempower the most militant factions of a society when you enshrine the society with a state, because you're giving them diplomatic power by enshrining them with a state. That's number one. Number two, he talks about in his diplomatic wisdom, he prevented a state. Diplomatic wisdom, you funneled cash literally to Hamas. So what kind of diplomatic wisdom are you talking about? Just completely upside down. Everything he says, completely the opposite is true. What else is new on that score? But yes, it is good to see all these countries come around and acknowledge a Palestinian state for sure.
Please clap.